Mop the floor with your dress!
A story of hidden love, cruel judgment, and a truth that changes everything. Hey there, beautiful souls! Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's incredible story, I need to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. And hey, how are you doing today? I hope you're ready for a story that'll have your heart racing and your emotions all over the place. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because, trust me, you don't want to miss the stories we share here. Now, let's jump right in. The crystal chandelier above Elena Mercer's head cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. She knew this because Victoria Ashford, the woman whose palazzo-style mansion she'd been cleaning for 8 months, mentioned it every single time Elena polished the foyer floors. But tonight, as Elena knelt on the imported Italian marble with her worn scrub brush, the chandelier's Gigi wasn't what made her hands tremble. It was the secret growing inside her. "You missed a spot." Victoria's voice cut through the silence like a blade through silk. The matriarch of the Ashford Empire stood at the top of the grand staircase, her Chanel suit pristine, her silver hair pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch her disapproval even thinner. "Right there, by your knee." Elena's breath caught. She was 3 months along, barely showing, but enough that kneeling had become an exercise in hiding discomfort. She pressed her hand against her still flat stomach, a protective gesture she'd grown accustomed to in private moments. "Yes, ma'am." Elena's voice barely rose above a whisper. Victoria descended the stairs with the measured grace of someone who'd never questioned her place in the world. Each click of her Louboutins against marble sounded like a countdown. When she reached the bottom, she circled Elena like a predator assessing prey. "You know what I've never understood about people like you?" Victoria's words dripped with a venom so refined it could have been served at one of her charity galas. "You come into homes like mine, you see the life we've built, and you think somehow proximity to wealth will rub off on you, as if elegance were contagious." Elena's jaw tightened, but she kept her eyes down. She'd learned early that engaging with Victoria's cruelty only fed it. "That dress you're wearing," Victoria continued, gesturing at Elena's simple cotton dress, the nicest one she owned, navy blue with small white flowers, bought from a thrift store but clean and pressed. "It's quite lovely, actually, almost pretty." The compliment landed like a trap Elena could feel closing around her. "In fact," Victoria said, her lips curling into something that might have been a smile on anyone else, "it's far too nice for someone in your position to waste on housework. Tell you what, why don't you take it off and use it to mop this floor? The fabric looks absorbent. I'm sure it would do a much better job than that ratty old rag you've been using." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Elena's head snapped up, her dark eyes finally meeting Victoria's ice-blue gaze. For 8 months, she'd endured the subtle cuts, the deliberately impossible tasks, the way Victoria said her name like it was something distasteful on her tongue. But this crossed a line drawn in Elena's bones, in her dignity, in the fierce protectiveness she already felt for the child no one knew about. No one except the father. "Mrs. Ashford, it wasn't a suggestion." Victoria's voice dropped to a temperature that could frost glass. "Consider it a test of your commitment to this position. You do want to keep this job, don't you? I imagine someone in your circumstances can't afford to be unemployed." The implication was clear as the chandelier's light refracting through $10 million of crystal above them. "Victoria didn't know about the pregnancy," couldn't know, but her words cut anyway, slicing right through to Elena's deepest fear. What would happen to her baby if she lost this income? Elena's fingers curled into the fabric of her dress, her knuckles white. And that's when she heard it. Footsteps, coming from the east wing, heavy, quick, and furious. Victoria heard them too. Her expression flickered, just for a second, with something Elena had never seen before: uncertainty. The double doors to the study burst open, and James Harrington strode into the foyer like a storm given human form. The heir to the Ashford fortune, the man whose last name would never be his, despite being raised in this house after his father married Victoria 20 years ago. The billionaire entrepreneur whose tech company had revolutionized cybersecurity, and the father of Elena's child, looked like he was barely containing the rage that radiated from every controlled movement. "Mother," he said, his voice so calm it was terrifying, "step away from her, now." What had James heard? How long had he been listening? And why was his hand trembling as he stared at Elena like she was the only person in the room who mattered? James Harrington hadn't slept in 36 hours. The insomnia had nothing to do with the merger his company was negotiating, a deal worth $800 million. Numbers had never kept him awake. Numbers made sense. People didn't. Especially not Elena Mercer, the woman who'd walked into his life 4 months ago and walked out 3 weeks ago carrying his child. He'd been in the study reviewing contracts when he'd heard his mother's voice through the ventilation system, an architectural flaw he'd always found annoying until tonight, when it became the only thing standing between Elena's dignity and his mother's cruelty. "Mop the floor with your dress." The words had turned his blood to ice, then fire. Now, standing in the foyer with his mother's shocked face and Elena's wide eyes, James realized the secret couldn't stay buried forever. Not when it was literally growing. "James," Victoria recovered quickly, "I was just instructing the staff on—" "I heard exactly what you were doing." James positioned himself between his mother and Elena. "And it ends now." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "How I manage the household staff is—" "Elena isn't staff." The words came out harder than James intended. "She never was. Not really." He could feel Elena's gaze burning into his back, her silent plea. "Don't. Please don't do this. Not like this." But it was too late. Victoria's laugh was brittle. "The girl is a maid, a very adequate one. Her name is Elena. She's 26, holds a master's degree in art history from Columbia, speaks 4 languages, and volunteers at the Children's Hospital every Sunday." James's voice cracked slightly. "She's been cleaning your toilets because the art world blacklisted her after she refused her former employer's advances." The silence was deafening. Elena had never told him any of that, never wanted him to know about her fall from a promising career. But somehow, this man who'd first spoken to her 4 months ago, who'd said please and thank you like the words cost nothing, had cared enough to learn her story. Victoria's face flushed red. "Even if that's true, it doesn't change—" "She's pregnant." James said it quietly, but the words detonated like a bomb. Elena grabbed the marble column, her scrub brush clattering to the floor. Victoria's mouth opened, closed. "What?" "Elena is 3 months pregnant." James turned, his blue eyes finding Elena's brown ones. "And before you make assumptions, Mother, let me be clear." He crossed to Elena and took her hands. "The baby is mine." Victoria swayed, reaching for the banister. "You? You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." James's thumbs traced circles on Elena's palms. "I wanted to tell you weeks ago." "You had no right." Elena pulled away. I told you I needed time. This isn't how this was supposed to happen. Before what? Before my mother humiliated you? James's frustration broke through. You've been avoiding me for 3 weeks. Do you know what that's been like? Before Elena could respond, the front door burst open. A woman strode in, designer heels clicking, auburn hair perfect, a leather portfolio under her arm. Victoria seized the interruption. Natalie, thank God. Who are you? Elena asked. The woman smiled coldly. I'm Natalie Van Owen, James's fiancée. The word hit Elena like ice water. Fiancé? Fiancé? James's voice cut through the foyer like a whip. What the hell are you talking about, Natalie? Natalie Van Owen's smile didn't waver. She moved deeper into the room with the confidence of someone who'd walked these marble floors 1,000 times before. Don't be dramatic, darling. We've had an understanding for years. An understanding? James released Elena's hands, turning fully toward Natalie. We dated in college, 8 years ago, for 6 months. And our families have been planning our merger ever since. Natalie's green eyes flicked to Elena with barely concealed disdain before returning to James. Your mother and I had lunch just last week. Didn't she tell you? Elena's stomach dropped. She looked at Victoria, whose expression had shifted from shock to something calculating, something that looked almost triumphant. Mother? James's voice was dangerously quiet. Victoria lifted her chin. Natalie and I have been discussing possibilities. Her father's investment firm could be very beneficial to your company's expansion. Unbelievable. James laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're trying to arrange my marriage like it's a business transaction? That's how our world works, James. Victoria descended another step. You've been acting recklessly for months, distracted, unfocused. Now I understand why. This situation, she gestured toward Elena, explains everything. This situation? Elena found her voice, anger overriding fear. You mean your grandchild? The word hung in the air like a grenade. Natalie's perfect composure cracked. Grandchild? Yes. James moved back to Elena's side. Elena is carrying my baby. And before you or my mother start suggesting whatever insulting solutions you're already formulating, I'm going to make something crystal clear. I'm going to be a father, a present, active, devoted father. And Elena will be well compensated, I'm sure. Natalie's voice dripped with condescension. These things can be handled discreetly. A generous settlement, a nice apartment somewhere far from here, a trust fund for the child. No one needs to know the details. Elena's vision blurred red. I'm not for sale. Everyone has a price, sweetheart. Natalie pulled a checkbook from her portfolio. Name yours. Before Elena could respond, James snatched the checkbook from Natalie's hands and threw it across the foyer. It hit the marble with a sharp crack. Get out. James, Victoria started. Both of you, get out of this house right now, or I swear I will physically remove you myself. Natalie's eyes widened. You can't be serious. Over some maid? Over the woman I love? James's voice rang through the foyer. Over the mother of my child, over the only person in this entire mansion who's ever looked at me and seen something other than a bank account or a business opportunity. Victoria's face went white. If you choose her, James, you're choosing poverty. I'll cut you off. Every penny, every connection. The board will do whatever they want. James's jaw was set. I built my company from the ground up. I don't need your money or your approval. He turned to Elena, his eyes softening. But I need you to trust me. Please. Elena looked at this man, this impossible, complicated, privileged man, offering to throw away everything for her. For their baby. But as she opened her mouth to respond, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out with trembling hands. The text message made her blood run cold. "I know about the baby. We need to talk. Your art career isn't as dead as you think. But you have to leave him. Tonight. Richard Kane." Richard Kane, the gallery owner who'd blacklisted her, the man who'd destroyed her life. And somehow, he knew everything. Elena's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Richard Kane. The name alone made her skin crawl. The celebrated gallery owner who'd promised her the world, a solo exhibition, connections to collectors, a future in the art world she'd sacrificed everything for, until the night he'd cornered her in his office, his hand on her thigh, his breath reeking of scotch, whispering that talent alone won't open doors, sweetheart. She'd slapped him. He'd ruined her. Every gallery in New York had mysteriously stopped returning her calls within a week. Her contract was terminated, her reputation shredded with carefully placed rumors about unprofessional behavior and emotional instability. And now he was back. "Elena?" James touched her arm gently. "What's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." She couldn't tell him. Couldn't explain that the man who'd destroyed her once was somehow watching them right now, knew about the pregnancy, and was offering her everything she'd lost, but only if she walked away. "Hey, beautiful people, I'm curious. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and your heart? Drop your story in the comments. And if you're feeling this story, smash that subscribe button because it's about to get even more intense. GFG. Elena's voice failed her. She shoved the phone back in her pocket. "I need air." She turned toward the door, but Victoria's voice stopped her cold. "Running away? How predictable." Victoria's tone was sharp. "That's what people like you do when real life gets complicated, isn't it? You run." "Mother, enough," James warned. But Victoria was on a roll, her composure completely shattered. "She's already trying to leave you, James. Can't you see it? Whatever's on that phone scared her, and instead of trusting you, she's bolting." "You don't know anything about me," Elena said through gritted teeth. "I know enough." Victoria descended the final steps, her eyes glittering with something dangerous. "I know girls like you see men like my son as lottery tickets. I know you probably planned this pregnancy." "Stop." James's voice was thunder, but Victoria ignored him, advancing on Elena. "How much did Richard Kane offer you? That's who texted, isn't it? I saw your face. He's been calling the house, asking about you, wanting to make amends for past misunderstandings." Elena's blood turned to ice. "You've been talking to Richard? He's a respected art dealer. When he mentioned he had a protégé who'd gone missing, I didn't realize he meant our Maid." Victoria's smile was cruel. "He seems very eager to reconnect with you. Something about a gallery opening in Paris?" Paris, her dream. The opportunity she'd killed herself working toward before Richard destroyed it, and Victoria had been communicating with him. "You set this up." Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "You told him where I was. You told him about the pregnancy?" "No." Victoria tilted her head. "But I may have mentioned James's recent distraction. Richard's quite perceptive. He filled in the blanks himself." James looked between them, his face darkening. "Mother, what did you do?" "I'm giving the girl an option." Victoria turned to Elena. "Your career back, your dignity restored. All you have to do is disappear. Take Richard's offer. Go to Paris. Let James find someone appropriate." Natalie smirked from her position by the door. "Finally, some sense." Elena's hand pressed against her stomach, protecting the life growing inside her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, from Victoria's manipulation, from Natalie's contempt, from the impossible choice between her dreams and her heart. But then James was there, his hand covering hers over their child. "Don't listen to her," he whispered. "Whatever that text said, whatever anyone's offering you, we'll face it together." But could they? Could love really conquer the forces aligning against them? And why did Elena suddenly feel like she was being hunted? Elena's phone buzzed again. Then again. 3 messages in rapid succession, each one from Richard Kane. "Victoria's been very helpful. We've discussed terms. Solo show, 6 figures. Your name restored, but the offer expires at midnight. Choose wisely, Elena. Some chances don't come twice." James read the messages over her shoulder, his jaw clenching tighter with each word. "He's blackmailing you." "He's offering me everything I lost." Elena's voice cracked. "My career, my reputation, my life before I became invisible." "You're not invisible to me." "You're one person, James." The words burst out of her. "One person in a world that's been trying to erase me for 2 years. Do you know what it's like? To have worked that hard, sacrificed that much, only to be reduced to scrubbing toilets because one man decided you weren't grateful enough for his attention?" Natalie laughed sharply. "Oh, this is rich. The poor little maid had ambitions." Something in Elena snapped. 2 years of swallowing humiliation, of making herself small, of surviving. It all crystallized into white-hot fury. "You want to know who I am?" Elena's voice rang through the foyer. "I'm the girl who put herself through Columbia on scholarships and 3 jobs. I'm the art historian who discovered a lost Caravaggio sketch in a private collection everyone else dismissed. I'm the woman who built an exhibition that brought tears to the eyes of people who'd forgotten how to feel anything." She turned to Victoria. "And you're the woman so terrified of losing control that you'd rather destroy your son's happiness than admit someone from my world could be worth loving." Victoria's face went crimson. "How dare you? No, how dare you?" Elena's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "You called Richard Kane. You told him where to find me. You orchestrated this entire trap because you can't stand the thought of your precious bloodline being diluted by someone who wasn't born into country clubs and trust funds." "That's not—" Victoria started. "It's exactly that." James's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. "You've been sabotaging this from the beginning, haven't you? The impossible cleaning tasks, the public humiliations. You wanted Elena to quit." Victoria lifted her chin. "I wanted you to wake up before you made an irreversible mistake." "The only mistake," James said, "was not seeing you clearly until now." He pulled out his phone, typed rapidly, and held it up to show Victoria. "That's a wire transfer, $5 million to Elena's account, effective immediately." Elena gasped. "James, no. It's not a gift. It's what I owe you." His eyes never left his mother's face. "For 8 months of wages you should never have needed to earn, for the humiliation you endured under this roof, for carrying my child while my mother plotted with the man who assaulted you." "He didn't assault," Elena whispered. "Sexual coercion is assault." James's voice was steel. "And if Richard Kane thinks he can use your dreams as leverage, he's about to learn what happens when you threaten my family." Family. The word hit Elena like a thunderbolt, but before she could respond, the front door opened again. A man stepped inside, silver-haired, expensive suit, cold smile. Richard Kane had come to collect his answer in person, and the gun in his jacket pocket caught the chandelier light as he moved. "Hello, Elena. I hope you've made the right choice." The temperature in the foyer dropped 10 degrees. Richard Kane stood framed in the doorway like a nightmare made flesh. He was exactly as Elena remembered, distinguished, charismatic, the kind of man who commanded rooms without raising his voice. But now she saw what she'd missed 2 years ago, the cruelty in his smile, the predatory calculation in his eyes. "You weren't answering your phone." Richard's hand rested casually on his jacket, right where the gun's outline pressed against expensive fabric. "I thought a face-to-face conversation might be more productive." James moved instantly, positioning himself between Richard and Elena. "You need to leave, now." "I don't think so." Richard's smile widened. "Elena and I have unfinished business. A contract, if you will. I've invested considerable resources into resurrecting her career. I expect a return." "She doesn't owe you anything," James said, "doesn't she?" Richard's eyes found Elena's over James's shoulder. "I made you, Elena. Every connection you had, every door that opened, that was my name, my reputation. And when you disrespected me, I took it all away. Now I'm offering it back." Elena's voice was barely audible. "Why? Why now?" "Because you're valuable again." Richard pulled out his phone, showing her a screenshot. "This sketch you authenticated, the Caravaggio? It just sold at auction for $12 million. The buyer wants you to curate his entire collection, but he won't work with a woman who cleans houses for the Ashfords." The number made Elena's head spin. 12 million, for a piece she'd discovered in someone's attic, that the art world had dismissed until she'd proven its provenance with months of painstaking research. "So you see," Richard continued, "you're not just a maid with dreams. You're a commodity. And I'm here to reclaim my investment." "By threatening her with a gun?" James's voice was ice. Richard laughed. "This? It's for protection. New York is dangerous at night, but if it makes you nervous, Mr. Harrington, perhaps you should consider what's really at stake here." He turned to Victoria, who'd been silent throughout the exchange. "Mrs. Ashford and I have reached an understanding. Elena goes to Paris with me, purely professional, of course, and in exchange, certain rumors about your son's company never reach the SEC." James went rigid. "What rumors?" "The ones about insider trading. False, naturally. But rumors don't need to be true to destroy a billion-dollar reputation, do they?" Richard's smile was poisonous. "Or Elena can stay here, play house with your illegitimate child, and watch your empire crumble while her career remains dead." Elena felt the walls closing in. Everything she'd ever wanted, her career, her dignity, her identity beyond survival, was being offered on a silver platter. All she had to do was walk away from the only man who'd ever truly seen her, from their child, from the impossible future she'd been terrified to hope for. James's hand found hers in the space between their bodies, a lifeline, an anchor. But Richard's next words shattered everything. "Clock's ticking, Elena, and just so you know, Victoria's already signed the papers transferring your baby's custody rights to the Ashford estate. Leave with me now, or lose everything anyway." The lie was so perfectly crafted, Elena almost believed it. Almost. "That's impossible." Elena's voice cut through Richard's threat like a blade. "You can't sign away custody of a child that doesn't exist on any legal document yet." Richard's smile faltered, just for a second, and in that second, Elena saw it. The bluff. The desperate manipulation of a man who'd already lost control of the narrative. "You're lying!" Elena stepped out from behind James, her fear evaporating into something sharper, stronger. Victoria didn't sign anything because there's nothing to sign. You're betting I'm too scared to call you on it." James's hand tightened around hers, understanding dawning. "And the SEC rumors?" "Probably don't exist either," Elena said, her voice gaining strength. "Because if they did, you'd have leveraged them already. You're not here because you're powerful, Richard. You're here because you're desperate." Richard's composure cracked. "You have no idea what you're—" "The Caravaggio buyer." Elena's mind was racing now, pieces falling into place. "They didn't ask for me specifically, did they? You told them I authenticated it, hoping to create leverage, but they've never heard of me." The flash of rage in Richard's eyes confirmed it. "You destroyed my career because I rejected you," Elena continued, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. "And now you're watching me rebuild something you can't control, a life, a family, something real. And it's killing you." "Careful, Elena." Richard's hand moved toward his jacket, but James was faster. His phone was already out, screen facing Richard. "See that red light? You've been live streaming to my company's security team for the last 3 minutes. Every threat, every admission. And that gun you keep touching? 12 security guards are currently surrounding this house." As if on cue, flashlight beams swept across the windows. Richard's face went white. "You want to know what real power looks like?" James's voice was lethal. "It's not threats and manipulation. It's knowing exactly who to call when someone threatens the woman you love. My head of security is former FBI. Want to guess how fast they can get a warrant for your arrest?" The front door burst open. 3 guards in tactical gear moved inside with professional precision. "Mr. Kane," the lead guard said, "we need you to come with us. Hands where we can see them." Richard's eyes darted between Elena and James, searching for an escape that didn't exist. "You're making a mistake, both of you. Elena, you'll never work in the art world again. I'll make sure—" "Actually," Victoria's voice rang out, shocking everyone, "she will." All eyes turned to her. Victoria descended the stairs, her expression unreadable. "I made some calls while you were busy threatening my family, Richard. Turns out several gallery owners have been wanting to speak out about your practices for years. They were just afraid. But when a woman with my resources and reputation decides to back them—" She smiled coldly. "Fear becomes unnecessary." She turned to Elena. "You were right about everything, and I—" Her voice caught. "I'm sorry." Richard lunged for the door, but the guards caught him easily. As they dragged him out, still shouting threats, Elena's knees buckled. James caught her, his arms wrapping around her as the adrenaline finally crashed. "We're safe," he whispered into her hair. "You're safe. Our baby is safe." And for the first time in 2 years, Elena let herself believe it. The silence after Richard's removal was deafening. Victoria stood at the base of the stairs, her perfect composure finally shattered. Tears, actual tears, streaked through her makeup. "I need to explain," she began, her voice trembling. "When James's father died 2 years ago, he made me promise to protect our son from people who might use him. I became paranoid, cruel." She looked at Elena. "I saw you as a threat because you made James happy in a way I couldn't control. And that terrified me." Natalie shifted uncomfortably by the door. "Victoria, you should leave, Natalie." Victoria's voice was firm. "There was never an engagement, never an understanding. That was my fantasy, not reality. And I'm done forcing my son into a life he never wanted." Natalie's face flushed crimson. Without a word, she grabbed her portfolio and stormed out. Elena watched the door close, then turned to Victoria. "You called Richard. You told him where to find me." "I did." Victoria's shoulders sagged. "I thought if he offered you your career back, you'd leave voluntarily. I never imagined he'd—" She pressed her fingers to her temples. "I've spent 8 months trying to drive you away, and all I've done is prove I'm the monster you thought I was." "You are," Elena said quietly. "But monsters can change, if they want to." James's arm tightened around Elena's waist. "She doesn't owe you forgiveness, Mother." "I know," Victoria's voice broke. "But maybe I could earn a chance. Not for me. For my grandchild." The word, grandchild, hung in the air like a fragile peace offering. Elena felt the baby flutter for the first time. Just a whisper of movement, but unmistakable. She gasped, her hand flying to her stomach. "What's wrong?" James's face went pale. "Nothing. Everything." Elena laughed through sudden tears. "The baby just moved. James, our baby moved." His hand covered hers, and when he felt the tiny flutter again, his eyes filled with wonder. "That's our child." "That's our child," Elena repeated, the reality of it finally, fully sinking in. Victoria took a tentative step forward. May I feel?" Elena hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to trust this woman who'd caused so much pain. But then she looked at James's hopeful face, at Victoria's tears, at the possibility of something better. "One chance," Elena said firmly. "You get one chance to be a grandmother. But if you ever treat me or our child with anything less than respect, you'll never see us again. I understand." Victoria's hand trembled as she placed it gently on Elena's stomach. When the baby fluttered again, Victoria let out a sob. Oh, that's a miracle." James pulled Elena closer, kissing her temple. "I love you. I should have said it weeks ago, months ago. I love you, Elena Mercer." "I love you too," Elena whispered. "Even though you're impossibly complicated and your mother tried to destroy my life." "Former habit," Victoria said weakly. "I'm reforming." And somehow, impossibly, Elena believed her. Or at least, she believed in the possibility of believing. Which was enough for now. 6 months later. The gallery opening was everything Elena had dreamed of, and nothing like she'd imagined. "Breathtaking," a collector murmured, studying Elena's curated exhibition. "The way you've arranged these pieces tells a story about resilience, about beauty born from struggle." Elena smiled, one hand resting on her very pregnant belly. "That's exactly what I wanted to convey." The Manhattan Gallery was packed with critics, collectors, and artists. But the most important people stood near the entrance, James holding their daughter's ultrasound photos like they were priceless art. Victoria, genuinely smiling as she spoke with gallery owners about Elena's extraordinary eye for hidden masterpieces. It had taken months of therapy, both individual and family, to get here. Months of difficult conversations, broken trust slowly rebuilding, and Victoria learning that love wasn't about control. Richard Kane was serving 18 months for extortion and weapons charges. Turned out 5 other women had similar stories. Victoria's backing had given them courage to speak. "Mrs. Harrington?" A young woman approached nervously. "I'm a graduate student at Columbia. Your authentication work inspired me to pursue art history. Could I ask you some questions?" "Of course. And please, call me Elena." She caught James's eye across the room. He winked. Mrs. Harrington. She was still getting used to the ring on her finger, a simple platinum band they'd chosen together. No diamonds, no ostentation, just a promise. They'd married quietly 3 months ago, with Sophia as maid of honor and Victoria tearfully admitting she'd been wrong about everything. As the evening wound down, James appeared at her side with sparkling cider. Ready to go home? Almost. Elena looked around the gallery one last time. I just want to remember this, the moment everything came full circle. From scrubbing floors to commanding galleries. James kissed her forehead. You've always been extraordinary, Elena. The world just finally caught up. Victoria approached, carrying a wrapped package. For the baby. I thought, well, I hope you'll accept it. Elena unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a children's book, hand-illustrated, bound in leather. The title read, The Girl Who Found Light in Dark Places. I wrote it, Victoria admitted quietly, about a young woman who refused to let the world diminish her. I was hoping, when she's old enough, you might read it to your daughter. Elena's throat tightened. Our daughter. And yes, we will. The baby kicked hard, as if in agreement. 3 months later, Isabella Grace Harrington entered the world at 3:47 a.m., screaming her displeasure at the bright lights and cold air. But the moment James placed her in Elena's arms, she quieted, her tiny fingers grasping her mother's pinky. Hello, little one, Elena whispered. Welcome to your impossible, beautiful, complicated life. James kissed them both. She's perfect. From the doorway, Victoria watched her son become a father and finally understood what love actually looked like. Not control, not perfection, just presence, just grace, just family.